Cheers, guys. Epix 911. Welcome to part 2 of the April VR Games Recap. This is a monthly video, soon to be weekly series again, where we take a look at games that I identified either as going to be released in April or just announced in April. Either way, the thing about these games is there's something about the game that kind of piqued my interest and made it worth talking about and potentially following up on when it does get released. So sit back, guys, and let's take a look at these games in part 2 for April. This first game, Batman Arkham VR, of course, this released on the PlayStation VR system. Now, I've never been shy about the fact that I think it's a little bit too short to pay full price. Didn't mind doing that on the PlayStation VR as a support gesture, but you know what? The Vive and the Rift are platforms that have been around long enough that we would hope, we'd get something a little bit different. Well, this is pretty much a port of the PlayStation VR. So if you haven't tried this yet, look, it's not bad. It's got some puzzles. It's got some adventure. The graphics are great. But at the end of the day, it's a very short experience that at times feels more like a tech demo. Nothing wrong with that. Just know that ahead of time and make that decision for yourself. Is $20 US worth about an hour of game time? If it is, fine. What piqued my interest about this next game, which is called Eye in the Sky, it's exclusively an HTC Vive strategy game from developer Vinlia Games, released the other day for $13.49 US. But what caught my attention on this is it uses a similar multiplayer cooperative strategy that the game Panoptic took. If you haven't played Panoptic and you're looking for a game that you can play cooperatively with somebody, who's physically there with you but doesn't have access to another head-mounted display, they can man the keyboard. And it's an amazing dynamic, and it works very, very well. They do the same thing here. So you've got one person who's looking at the escape room style puzzles of the game from the point of view that they're actually there. They've got that immersion, they've got that scale and distance to objects as if they were actually there. The other person manning the keyboard is watching the strategy unfold on their monitor. So they're seeing things that the person immersed may miss, and vice versa. And that's the beauty of this game. It's that synergy between the two trying to solve the same puzzles. Haven't tried this yet. It is in early access, but like I said, the games on this list are ones that for whatever reason have kind of piqued my interest. For me, trying out a game like this, with one of my buddies may be a lot of fun. So check it out if you're looking for something similar. This next game, Rick and Morty VR, available for both Vive and Rift, bills itself as an adventure game from Alchemy Labs. It released April 20th, so just about a week ago, for $29.99 US. What reviewers are saying about this game, first of all, the publisher is Adult Swim Games. And for me, the Adult Swim cartoons have just been awesome. Cartoons for me were always something I kind of identified with my childhood, and with the exception of anime, which, let's face it, is for kids, teenagers, adults, it caters to all ages, and Western animation, for whatever reason, just didn't. That's the beauty of Adult Network for me, is the adult cartoons. You would get stuff like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, for example. Very adult-orientated. Sure, a kid could probably watch it, but they wouldn't get half the humor because it's literally directed at adults. Well, what reviewers are saying about this is it's basically this Rick and Morty is Job Simulator, which of course we know is a launch title for the Vive. It's basically that with an episode of Rick and Morty kind of grafted onto it. That's not necessarily a bad thing. So if you're in for, some adult humor along the lines of what you saw in Job Simulator, give this a shot. This next game, Statik, exclusively available for PlayStation VR. It's a puzzle game from Tarsier Studios, launched about a week ago for $19.99 US. At first glance, it looks like a filler game, the type of game to tie you over between releases on the PlayStation 4 platform for VR. But don't be fooled. I picked this game up, didn't have a hell of a lot of expectations for it, but let me tell you, the puzzles are awesome. It's a really, really fun game. Had a great time. Gameplay-wise, you're clocking in about half a dozen hours, so roughly 5, 6, 7 hours. Depends on how you do with the puzzles yourself. I think it's a great value for the money. And yeah, at the end of the day, I guess it is kind of a tie you over, but it's a hell of a good tie you over. So check that out. Statik from Tarsier Studios. Next up, Statik. This game, action game, available for both Vive and Rift. It's from developer Colopal. It was released a couple of days ago for $9.09 US. So you're thinking, okay, wow, it looks pretty good, which it does. Graphics look decent, gameplay apparently tight, and very well done. The biggest complaint, however, levied against this game is the length. And I know I've kind of gone on and on about that. And there seems to be that sweet spot for me, you know, time versus how much you're willing to spend on the game. Now, according to many people who've played this on the easiest difficulty level, you're talking about 30 minutes of gameplay. 30 minutes start to finish to complete the game. However, if you include unlockables, different difficulties, apparently you can get about 90 minutes out of this game. So I guess that's one of those kind of personal decisions for you for a game that's polished, especially if you like shooters. I mean, if you don't, and again, if you're sick of the wave-based style games, probably not for you. Regardless, you wouldn't buy this anyways. So let's go on the assumption that this is your type of game. What is the right price for you? So for me, it's kind of right on that border. $9 for something that's going to give me about an hour, hour and a half. It's not that bad. It's kind of like a movie. That's the way I look at it. So probably something I would do, but you know what? Your mileage may vary on that. And the last game we have is Wilson's Heart. This one's for the Oculus Rift. It's an adventure game from Twisted Pixel Games. $45.99 US. What I love about this game, in short, is the art style. And not just for the sake of art itself. I mean, yes, it looks pretty damn artsy. They went with that black and white look. The beauty of going with that black and white look is that it actually gave them some additional overhead. And man, did they take advantage of that additional overhead. Instead of just being gimmicky for the aesthetics and the look alone, they went right on in and said, you know what, we are going to up the texture complexity. This is an engine designed specifically for this game. It's not Unreal, Unity. This is an engine that Twisted Pixels created specifically for the game. And just like with the art style, it really helps push the game's narrative. It feels original. It feels like the kind of asylum in your worst nightmares you would not want to wake up in. And just being able to go with those added textures because of the black and white, absolutely fantastic. This is for you, this style of game. Check it out. Well, guys, thanks for joining me for part 2 of the April VR Games recap. Next up, month of May, some games that I'm really looking forward to. I think the game that I'm probably most looking forward to, and I'm not saying it's going to release in May, but Fallout 4. I just love Bethesda games. Not necessarily the way the game is right when it launches. I mean, the storylines are okay. You know, they're not terribly long. They're usually about a dozen hours for the main storyline. It's the modding aspect that I love. Once a Bethesda game has been around for 1, 2, 3 years, that's when I think they start shining, and they are the best of themselves because you've got the modding community really supporting it. Take Oblivion, for example. Sure, you know what? 8 to 10 hour main storyline. You can speed run it faster than that. But once the mods started being released, I sunk hundreds of hours into that game. It was basically real-life D&D in a video game form, as far as I was concerned. Skyrim, the same. Fallout 4, absolutely the same. So looking forward to that and more. and we will cover it here. Like I said, maybe one more monthly recap format like this. As soon as I'm settled in, though, guys, and can establish a bit of a pattern, it's going to go back to a weekly recap format. Guys, as always, cheers.